Hello. This video exists mainly to summarize and give an overview of the various resources available on the SwitchX. It is, as you'll notice, heavily scripted. Were I to give it an actual in-depth look with all the intricacies it offers, all the niche every move can fill and so on, we'd be looking at a several-hour presentation. For this reason, I'll try to keep it as short and concise as possible, answering as many questions as I can without going deep. If there's a question that I did not touch upon, it's probably your best bet to refer to the resources that will also be linked in the description and to run your own calculations. First, let's talk about the moves. We'll go over the mobbing, ZSD spam, utility moves, as well as the wirebug and switch skills. The SwitchX has access to two modes, Sword mode and Axe mode, with distinct movesets between the two and different utility and damaging options, leading to three distinct playstyles: morph-focused, ZSD-focused and counter-focused. It's important to note that the Sword mode gets boosted by the file type that the Axe has. Power files give a 15% raw buff while in Sword mode, while element files boost the element by 45%. Exhaust files can KO and exhaust monsters if they stick to the face, but are overall unoptimal. Your bread and butter moves for the mobbing are draw morph, double slash, morph, morph. On loop. For ease of speech, I'll refer to the switch controls from here on out. As I said before, your bread and butter consists of drawing with ZR, A, ZR. You want to use this for longer downs and openings and slowly transition into abusing it more and more as it's your main combo. While having files which boost equipped, ZR spam, so just morphing back and forth, can generate a lot of gauge very fast and has much less commitment to it, which in turn allows you to bail at any time. Two-stage slash consists of two components. You access it by starting with Wild Swing, then morphing. The first sword bit generates a good amount of gauge. From there, you can either morph again to cover some ground backwards, and, if you hit something with it, gain a lot of amp, or move into your bread and butter combo with A. It's important to mention that two-stage also allows you to access sword mode regardless of sword gauge. Two-stage has a stronger version after wild swinging 3 times, since you don't really use this move for its damage output, and it takes a little forever to execute, you'll rarely, if ever, find yourself using it. Wild swinging twice and pressing X leads to an overhead slam that grants a buff called max potency. This buffs the rate at which you generate amp and will be lost upon reaching amped state. It's somewhat useful before you can get counter and has little use after that, as it's terribly outclassed by two-stage and soaring Wyvern Blade in terms of commitment. The essential moves for the ZSD playstyle are ZSD, short for Zero Sum Discharge, soaring Wyvern Blade to combo off of the explosion, and recharge to gain sword gauge back and have a short time of infinite meter. As for utility moves, SwitchX has a few great options. From Sword mode, you can always hold back and press CR, which gives you a bit of distance backwards. Also from Sword mode, you can roll and morph into Axe from that, allowing you to immediately roll again to cover even more ground. After any attack that ends in Axe mode, you can press backwards and A to do a backwards Fate Slash. This propels you backwards a fair distance and can reach high body parts such as certain tails. You'll mostly use this for repositioning without consuming stamina. Overhead versus forward slash. This boils down to preference. Forward slash is quicker, while overhead has different follow-ups when morphing and hits harder. I rarely find myself using either, but I prefer forward slash for repositioning. Next, we'll talk switch skills. The available switch skills are in order. First slot, forward slash versus forward overhead slash. Preference, like I said before, I like forward better for positioning, but you can feasibly play without ever using either of the two. Second slot, finishing discharge versus compressed finishing discharge. Outside of style points in the case of compressed, finishing discharge enables CSD and eats less sword gauge. Compressed is just straight up bad. Third slot, Axe Wide Sweep versus 2-stage morph / combo. 2-stage generates amp and sword gauge, and a lot of it too. Wide Sweep would be good if it was buffed by rapid morph, maybe, but it isn't. Use 2-staged. Fourth slot, Invincible Gambit versus Soaring Wyvern Blade versus Wire Step. Matchup and player preference. Gambit has hyper armor for days and can potentially be really good on stuff like Diablos to get through his raw spam, while also hitting its weak spot, the belly. Soaring Wyvern Blade can be chained from ZSD, which in turn enables that whole playstyle. Wire Step is a really good evasive move. Personally, I prefer Soaring Wyvern Blade, as I use CSD for defensive utility as well. Fifth slot, Switch Charger versus Elemental Burst Counter. Switch Charger fills your sword gauge, stopping it from being drained for a short time, and has iframes to boot. EBC is a walking through charge slash with hyper armor for days that also instantly amps and refreshes the timer on amp. CSD spam likes both. Counter spam likes counter, and personally I love this fair and balanced move. It bears mentioning that counter can also be used to amp by yourself pretty much anytime. There is a tag for small barrel bombs that I don't see much use for how tight it is to pull it off. More importantly, as long as you hit a weak zone, that is a spot with hits on value 45 or higher, you can also counter the explosion of large barrel bombs. In terms of skill priorities, I would like to first get into the comfort and the utility section. These skills can make or break the weapon for you and generally make things a lot easier while not being straight up defensive in nature. Evade Extender 1 or 2. This is great for catching up with monsters in multiplayer or during topples, and coincidentally gets you out of range for many dangerous attacks fast enough to not worry a whole lot about dying. 1 versus 2 boils down to preference and matchup, but even 0 can work. 3 is a bit overkill outside of very specific scenarios, like cutting down on travel time or making certain jumps over gaps with less wire bug usage. Evade window, 1 extra iframe per level. Like with Extender, it's not needed, but can help out a lot if you're just learning the timing of iframes. I recommend starting with as much as you need and slowly cutting 1 over time. Bloodrite 1 or 2, which one you can fit depends on your set and charm. This is a lot more prevalent in the counter and ZSD playstyles, as oftentimes you can't avoid chip damage that would lead to death. It's also a very comfy option that doesn't cut into opportunity cost too much. Wirebug Whisperer 1 or 3 and Power Prolonger. Whisperer 1 or 3 are the only relevant options. 1 increases the time you can hold a third bug, while 3 decreases the cooldown on Silk Binds. Power Prolonger 1 or even 2 is a great option for Afflicteds. Which of these and how many points you run is depending on your playstyle. Counter spam does not require Power Pro at all, outside of the aforementioned Afflicteds, while the extra bug or cooldowns help a ton, while the reverse is true for counterless CSD spam. I like to devote somewhere between 4 and 7 points on my sets to these skills, and would recommend the same for someone who just started learning the weapon or doesn't want to try hard. Runners build differently, and usually according to the matchup and their game plan. Which offensive skills you opt in is, much like the utility ones before, dependent on the playstyle and weapon you choose and build around. Rapid Morph 3 is so strong on any set, it might as well become mandatory. On a similar note, reaching purple sharpness and maintaining it is a boost that can hardly be overstated. Whether you use Protective Polish, Razor Sharp or Master's Touch to maintain that sharpness depends on different factors again. Although the most agreed upon choice is Protective Polish with a sliver of purple, as is the case for almost all power files naturally, and the mix of Handicraft 3 for all element files except Narva plus Polish. With Rapid Morph 3 and Sharpness Management out of the way, these are the offensive skills to aim for. These values were calculated in a vacuum, which means no other active skills, and use Daora and Magmudron switch axes respectively. It's important to notice that in terms of elemental effectiveness, both Daora and Shaggy need their own calculation due to having unusually high element values for the respective elements. In order of their effectiveness, unconditional skills for power files. Dereliction 1 on the blue scroll with 2 active Curios, 28 EFR per point invested. This is hands down the strongest skill you could run unconditionally. 2 Curios are used as a means of averaging out. On longer hunts this gets even stronger. It also enables resentment, which you'll find further down the line. 1 point in Mail of Hellfire while in red scroll offers 21 EFR. This directly contradicts the religion, and for switch axe you will almost never want to simultaneously run both. 3 points in weakness exploits amount to an on average 18.67 EFR gained per point. This is the strongest non-part specific skill you could slot. 100% affinity through Wex 3, Bloodlust 1, Max Might 3 and Crit Boost 3 will net you 17.8 EFR per point invested. I wouldn't recommend this outside of stun locks, and maybe not even then, due to how janky Max Might 3 is. 100% affinity through Wex 3, Crit Eye 3, Agitator 3 and Crit Boost 3 will net you 11.13 EFR per point invested. This means you get 11.13 EFR 16 times, which is roughly 178 EFR out of this combination. To put this into perspective, it's like stacking half a Daora switch axe on your Daora switch axe. Chain Crit 1 amounts to a gain of 14 EFR, another 1 point wonder with good enough distribution. Attack Boost 7 for 8.43 and Attack Boost 4 for 8 EFR per point. These two are extremely close together. Efficiency wise, 7 is the better choice, but only if you can fit everything else you want on top of it. The aura was used for this calculation, which sits at 320 base roll, so the results for different base roll values will differ. Chain Crit 3 for 7 EFR per point. That's pretty much exactly half as good as Chain Crit 1 in terms of efficiency. Crit Eye 7 for 6.43. On its own, Crit Eye 7 is not really good. Next up are the conditional skills. The absolute strongest one is Sneak Attack 3 for 29.67 EFR per point. Sneak Attack is absolutely wild, but about as conditional as it gets. If you can make it work, it's an extreme increase in damage, but keep in mind that you'll need a tail hit zone that rivals the other best spot, usually the head. In practice, not really that good, but an honorable and admittedly surprising mention. Next up are Sneak Attack 1 for 23 EFR, and Coalescence and Bloodlust 1 each for 20 EFR. Coalescence and Bloodlust combination. The issue with these two is that Koa drops off way before Bloodlust gets reapplied, resulting in this number being bloated. Adrenaline Rush 1 and 3 for 14 each. Efficiency wise, Adrenaline Rush gives 14 EFR per point invested. This would be a good pick if it was distributed more and counter didn't exist. For afflicted monsters, a rule of thumb calculation would be an uptime of 50%, which would translate to 4.6 EFR per point invested towards Agitator 5, so keep that in mind. Agi 3, 100% uptime for 8.33 EFR per point invested, and Resentment 5 for 7. Resentment is great to slap on top of Dereliction, which in a way makes it unconditional. Outside of Dereliction setups, not recommendable. Foray might seem interesting at first, but the uptime on it is likely not high enough to outweigh its opportunity cost, and outside of very scripted speedruns, it is not worth the inconsistency it tends to bring. As there are no raw skills available on level 1 slots and some axes like the Aura have noteworthy levels of element attack, dedicating 1 slots to elemental attack is a good idea. This concludes the options for power files. Next we'll compare the elemental ones. I will not go into detail again as much as I did for power files, as to not bloat the playtime even more than it already is. These calculations are based off of the Magma Almudron switch axe. Again, in a vacuum, only assuming purple sharpness, maintenance, no augments or rampage skills. Dereliction 1 blue scroll for 27 EFR, Mail of Hellfire 1 red scroll for 20 EFR. Surprisingly, even for heavily element inclined switch axes like Magron, the element increase pales in comparison to the raw buffs the scroll depending skills give. Wex 3 for 17.33, Wex 3 and Crit Boost 3 for 18.83, Crit Crit Boost 3, Wex 3, Crit I 7, Aggie 3 for 10.44, and CC 1 for 13 EFR and 10 EF element. Chain Crit 1, the aforementioned 1-point wonder, shows up here again, now with a major element component attached. Attack Boost 7 for 8 EFR per point, Aggie 3 with 100% uptime for 8 EFR, Attack Boost 4 for 7.75, and Chain Crit 3 for 6.67 EFR and 6.33 EF element. Even though Chain Crit 3 is less efficient than 1, it's still considerably harder to lean into elemental damage, which makes it still a worthy consideration. Interestingly, it still beats Element 5 despite the specific element skills giving percent buffs and the Macron switch axe's huge base fire. Crit I 7 for 6 EFR, Element 5 for 0 EFR but 4.6 effective element, Elemental Exploit for 0 EFR and 9 effective element, Elemental Exploit 3 for 0 EFR and 4.67 effective element. Not only is Elemental Exploit extremely thinly spread in terms of available armor pieces, it also loses a lot of efficiency, another 1-point wonder. Crit Element 3, 100% affinity assumed for 0 EFR, 4.67 effective element. I saw a lot of talks about Crit Element on Switch Axe, so I included it just for reference. Crit Element 3 on its own, so excluding the raw buffs you get from reaching 100% affinity, clocks in at 4.67 effective element gained per level. On paper, this looks not half bad, but this assumes Crit Element alone. To feasibly build a 100% elemental file set, you'd likely devote 7 points for Crit I, 3 for Agitator, 3 for Weakness Exploit, and 3 for Crit Boost. You're now looking at investing a total of 19 points for a total of 167 effective raw and 14 effective element. That's 8.7 EFR and 0.73 effective element per point. Still interested? I'm not. In terms of conditional skills, we have Sneak Attack 3 for 27.67 EFR, Sneak Attack 1 for 20 EFR, Coalescence 1, Bloodlust 1 for 19 EFR, Adrenaline Rush for 13.67 EFR, Adrenaline Rush 1 for 13 EFR, Coalescence 3, Bloodlust 1 for 11.75 EFR, Aggie 5 for 8.8 EFR, and Resentment 5 for 6.8 EFR per point. In terms of conditional skills, not a lot changed compared to power files. We still deal a large amount of raw damage after all. With armor sets to shoot for out of the way, let's take a look at the Rampage options. Species Exploit, 5% raw boost on everything you do. Naturally, this is better on power files than on elemental files. Valstruck Soul. This one has the potential to be really good on paper. Sadly, that paper doesn't translate well to reality. Elemental Exploit, situational. mhfu playstyle elemental files love this one, and element file ZSD spam can get a good amount of use out of this one too. Keep in mind that the Rampage upgrade only works on elemental hit zones of 25 or higher. PSB, File Switch Boost. Power File specifically wants this bad enough that it sometimes is worth upgrading to Rampage 3 for this alone. What it does is, it applies the file effects to the Axe parts of Morph attacks. The Sword parts of Morph attacks gain an additional 1.1 multiplier, or 10% buff, meaning they now have a 1.265 times raw multiplier going on. It also triples the region from Sword to Axe Morph, essentially turning the Morph loop into an infinite loop. For an exact rundown of this skill, please refer to Risen's document in the description. The Aura Soul exists and gets the same treatment as Crit Element. Honorable mention goes out for Body Rally, which is awesome for Jazzy style, patent pending. With skills and Rampage out of the way, let's talk weapons. For fire, you have Macron and Raphalos. For thunder, you have Narva and Sinogar. For water, you have Mudron and Mitsu or Crab. For dragon, you have Death Stench or Valstrax and Shagaru. For ice, you have Lagombi, kinda, sorta, and Daora or Luna. Which one is stronger is dependent on matchup and playstyle, and in some cases, available charms. Daora and Luna are pretty much interchangeable, while Valstrax is a more comfortable option than Death Stench. That said, Death Stench will beat Valstrax if pushed to purple sharpness and maintenance. Theoretically, Lagombi is a nice element for Elephile Switch Axe. In practice, the element on Daora is so large that, all things considered, It might beat the aura in a total of 1 matchup, specifically Diablos, if all you ever hit is the horn, the tail tip, the back and the wings. Other honorable mentions are the Master Rank 100 switch axe, as well as the following ones. All of those will be beaten by properly built around weapons from the previous list though. The following 5 are mainly used for progression and comfort, namely the Power Shredder or Lightning Shredder, Falldrache, Reconquerors, which is the R2 tree, Kamura, kinda, and starting from Master Rank 4, Luna. To accompany the weapons, there's some progression sets to be talked about. This one is when you're freshly in Master Rank. It has 3 times Weakness Exploit slotted, 1 time Rapid Morph, 3 times Protective Polish and 2 times Evade Extender. The Evade Extender slots can be used for other stuff like Power Pro if you're comfortable without Extender instead. This applies to all of these sets. The Charm has no useful skill and only a singular level 2 slot. This set has 3 unused level 1 slots that you can use to your heart's content and doesn't use weapon slots, so it's pretty flexible. This set is a direct upgrade to the previous one and available early in Master Rank 3. As before, it has unused slots, this time a level 4 which I filled with the second level of Power Prolonger, and 4 level 1s, as well as whatever the weapon you choose comes with. Somewhere around this point in your progression, you will unlock the Master Rank version of the Death Stench set, available through the Meowcenaries. Because I don't know how to speak cat, I'll call them Monster Hunter instead. With Astalos unlocked and having access to the Chankrid armor skill, as well as a new toy to play around with, we upgrade again. The decors I used for this one are 2 times Evade Extender, 3 times Weakness Exploit, 2 times Protective Polish. It also has 5 empty level 1s and doesn't use weapon slots. Fill these with your choice of Speed Sharpening, Free Meal, Element Attack or whatever else you like. Our weapon also gets a series upgrade in the Lunagoron axe, which boasts 300 raw and purple sharpness. This is why we want Protective Polish, because this delivers a trend in the later and endgame. After the final boss, you're likely looking to get into the Afflicted grind to upgrade your weapons and make the new level 4 decorations. The set in this showcase's generalist approach for power files aims to satisfy the needs of all previously spoken about playstyles. With a charm that offers more than just a single level 2 slot, you can easily fit Power Prolonger in here as well, allowing for more comfortable ZSD spam. The decorations used are 1 time attack, 2 times Evade Extender, 1 time Rapid Morph 2, 1 time Rapid Morph 4, 3 times Protective Polish 1, and 1 time Weakness Exploit. This set only offers 2 empty level 1s, but still doesn't use weapon slots, so it stays flexible to fit your needs. On a side note, Bloodrite is significantly better in single player due to lower part HP. Dereliction might be a bit too uncomfortable, but that's when you go to the set searcher and slap your own build together. Bloodrite is also unnecessary in Afflicted hunts, as you can easily gambit or ZSD through attacks and get Bloodblight and receive healing from simply attacking. In fact, Afflicteds are immensely good practice fodder for Dereliction setups. TLDR, if I could have said any of this shorter I would have. Watch the video. In the description you will find the following links. A link to the MHGH Discord, short for Monster Hunter Gathering Hall. A link to the Monster Hunter Meta subreddit. A link to a very useful damage calculator for Switch Axe specifically. 2 set compilations. A link to Fox Invictus spreadsheet. As well as a link to the Wiki Armor Set search, AS for short. I will now quickly go over how to use the AS. I use an incognito tab for this, as in incognito mode it doesn't use the cookies saved otherwise. Wiki uses cookies to save your charms, curio crafts and other settings. Usually I start by building around a specific weapon, so I enter the slots first. These mirror Ruffalo slots. Next I go to charms and enter mine. In this case it's an AB3 400. Click on that and it'll remember it. Next, I'll enter my crafting result. a slot upgrade on the Archfiend feed. The EQ Settings tab is useful if you want to pin or exclude certain pieces. Now finally I enter the skills I want on my set. Attack Boost 7, Blood Ride 1, Whisperer level 1, Power Pro level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Chain Crit level 1, Crit Boost level 3, Dereliction 1, Rapid Morph 3 and Prot Pull 3. Now I click on Search and look at the results. If there's too many results, you can click on More Skills and choose more from the list it produces. If you click on any result, it'll show you the used pieces as well as the decorations you need and a table with their active skills and where they come from. You can also pick a result to add to Armor Set, which saves them for quick access in the Armor Set tab. Easy. The SwitchX channel and the Gathering Hall Discord, Fox Invictus, whom I never interacted with but based a lot of the info on, as well as countless others who helped me in making this, especially Ridden, who double-checked my notes and helps a ton in general, as well as everyone else who endured my pestering during the making of this. I'm thankful for all of your input and help. I hope I could help anyone who happened to stumble upon this video. With this, I'll leave you to some clips that I happen to have at hand. Have a wonderful day and keep striving for improvement.